Take 7.6 notes, okay? Hey, good news here. Good news. What's the good news? Anyone recognize this? We already did this.
When?
Last semester. Okay. So first thing we do, get the radical by itself. Get just the radical by itself. Okay. Then undo the radical with an exponent.
We did our
What?
We did our
We did. We're going to do it again. And then solve for x. You'll have an algebraic expression at that end, at that point. You have an algebra 1 problem at that point. That's it. That's it. That's it. I need some chalk. All right, so number 1 here. I need to get my radical by itself. So how do I do that? How do I get just the radical stuff by itself? Trick question, it's already by itself, okay? And then I'm going to undo the radical with an exponent. What kind of exponent am I going to hit both sides with? Why a 2? Because the radical is a 2 root, a square root, right? So a 2 root, or a square root powered to the 2. So if these two numbers match, they're just going to cancel. And I'll get x plus 1 equals 49. Okay, then how do I solve for x?
-1.
Yes, thank you. That's it. Is that okay? I need some water. I'll stay hydrated today. All right, number 2. Root 3x equals -6. How do I get the radical by itself? It's already by itself. And then I do what? Then I'm going to square it, okay? Since this is a rooted to the second, I'm going to raise it to the second. So those will cancel. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Ooh. Ooh, what's wrong about that on the right side? You need to do parentheses squared. Okay? If it's a negative, make sure the negative's inside parentheses. Okay, so we're going to get 3x equals 36. Okay. And then solving for x, we'll get x equals 12. Okay?
So when you
I could have done it here too. You can do it on every single one of those. But you need the parentheses if there's a negative, right? Because if I hadn't done that and I'd gotten -6, I would have gotten x equals -12 for my answer, right? If I hadn't done the parentheses, I would have gotten x equals -12 as my answer. And you can always check your answer in algebra by doing what? Plug it back in. If I plug in -12 here, is the square root of -36? Is that -6? No, so that wouldn't have worked, okay? It would have been 6i, which that wouldn't have worked. Yeah. So you can always check your answer by plugging back in. Okay, so you should not. I don't want to see any wrong answers on solving equations on the quiz or test. Quiz. Actually, we have a quiz next week.
Are we allowed to have a calculator?
Yes, you are allowed to have a calculator. So quiz next week over 7.4 through 7.6.
Is that going for quarter 4?
No. What?
Is that quarter 4?
Let me talk to Mrs. Hollis.
Wouldn't it be quarter 3 technically?
I think it'd be quarter 3. I'm gonna give it to you. Can I give it to you Tuesday? Oh man, look at the reaction. I'm okay pushing it back a day, but we get 2 review days for the test. So I'm okay if we do like review. So we'll do the last notes on Monday, And then the day after that, we can do a quiz, or we can do a review day, and then a quiz, and then you just get one less review day for the test.
If you push it back, will it still be quarter 3?
I gotta talk to Mrs. Hollis, but yeah, probably. Yeah. So do you want to do it Wednesday? Is that better?
Will it be the size of the past quiz? Just
We can do review, quiz, review. Is that okay?
wait, quiz review.
Or you guys want to do quiz, review, review?
What was the first one?
When do you want to take the quiz?
So 7,
Tuesday or Wednesday? Okay, all right, cool. We'll do that. Yeah.
7's Monday then?
Yeah.
Will it be the same size as the past quiz? Just
Yeah. So this would be the last notes on that quiz. Okay. Okay, how do I get the radical by itself? Mr. Finn. Max, how do I get the radical by itself?
Oh, first you go -2.
There you go. All right, so what am I going to do on both sides now, Max? Square. Why do I square it, Max? Why do I square both sides? Square, yeah, it's just root 2.
Yeah, and you cross it.
Yeah, and then they'll cancel. I get 5x plus 6 equals 36. 36. Thank you. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Just want to get us locked back in. Yeah. All right. Can I do number 4? All right, how do I get the radical by itself? Subtract 6, right? Got to get rid of that 6. Okay, is the radical by itself? I got to divide, so I got to get rid of that minus, right? So I have to divide by -1 on both sides. That would cross out the minus. Okay? So now I have root 3y minus 4 equals +4. What do I do on both sides now? Square, right? And it's a square because that's the exponent that matches the number I have outside my radical. Okay? So I square both sides. Those cross out. 3y minus 4 equals 16. Add 4 to both sides. Are we feeling okay about this? No one's super lost? Okay, I never know when I'm going too fast or too slow. Alright? I never know. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I think we're fine and I go really fast, but then we're actually not fine. So I want to make sure I'm not going too fast.
Will you want us to keep it in the fraction?
Yes, I love improper fractions. I have a t-shirt that says that. No, I know, that'd be fine though.
You have a teacher that says we are 0.9 repeating.
Yeah, I do.
His math teacher from this year on the back says we are 0.9 repeating.
Yeah. It's my favorite club. It's just my thing. Is that okay? Are we okay with that? I'm good.
I just don't know what it means.
0.9 repeating, it's equal to 1. We are number 1.
Oh.
I can prove it sometime if you want.
You already proved it.
It's a converging geometric sequence. Anyway, number 5. Ooh. Woo! How do I get the radical by itself? Yeah, so the radical's already by itself, right? So I gotta do what exponent? Why am I doing a 3 on both sides? Yep. So 6x, what's -4 cubed? You can put parentheses around it again.
It's not going to change though.
It's not going to change anything, yeah. But let's just do that. Let's just say that, just so make it less confusing. What's -4 to the 3rd? Yes, thank you. -64. Divide by 6. Divide by 6. X equals, what's that? -32 over 3? There you go. Alright. You guys are going to do great on this. Let's do a really hard one. Wait, is that the whole notes?
Yeah.
Do 7.
go to 6. Add 4 to both sides. What do I do to both sides now? Cube them. Hit them with the cube. All right, it cancels on the left. 3x plus 4 equals 64. And solve that equation. All right. Just gonna whip through that one. Alright, so that's number 6. Can I move on? Alright, 7. Ooh, a little different. How do we get the radical by itself? It is by itself. What do I do to both sides to get rid of the radical? Square, okay? Right, it's got to match the number outside my radical. Cross those out, and then I'm just going to square this side, right? What am I doing wrong? What do I need on the right side? Parentheses, thank you. Good, we're getting the mathematical intuition down. So 2x minus 3 equals 3 minus x quantity squared. How do I solve for x here? Yeah, I'm going to FOIL that. So it's a quadratic. So I have 2x minus 3 equals FOIL it. You get 9 minus 2x plus x squared. How do we solve quadratics? Coming back to haunt us. Let's get it in standard form, okay? How do I get this in standard form?
So you subtract the 2x.
Yeah, if I wanted there to be a 0 on this side, right? So subtract the 2x, add the 3. Subtract 2x from both sides. Add 3 to both sides. Okay. So on the left side, I'll have 0. On the right side, I'll have x squared minus 4x plus 12. Little review. What are the 2 conditions for standard form? There's 0 on one side, and my lead coefficient needs to be positive. Because if it's not positive, what's going to be almost impossible to do? Factor it, if you can factor it. If you can't factor it, it's almost impossible to do if the lead coefficient's negative. I don't like doing it. Did I make a mistake?
Where did you get 2x?
Should have been 6x, thank you, I'm sorry. I was thinking multiply them together and then multiply by 2, and I just wrote down that 2 instead of multiplying by 2. Thank you. So that should be a 6x, and then that should be a minus 8x. Is that what you guys got? Okay. All right. Easiest way to solve a quadratic is to do what? Factor, okay? So 0 equals, make my shell, construct the shell, put an x. What are my SIGNS's going to be? Both negative, thank you. 2 factors, right, same sum, same sign. So 2 factors of 12 whose sum is 8. Dang it. I was hoping this wouldn't be factorable. If you're having trouble factoring it, how else can you solve it? Quadratic formula. If you don't remember the quadratic formula, how else could you solve? Complete the square.
What if you don't remember how to complete the square?
Start guessing and checking. You can solve it graphically. Okay. So what's our answer here? What are our 2 answers? X equals 6. So we remember that. This is really cool. Good job, guys. What time does class get out? 11:10, okay. Good stuff. Ooh. I feel like these are gonna be pretty similar. Go down to 9. Let's do 8 real quick. So I'm going to do what to both sides? I have the radical by itself. What do I do then? Square. So that side on the right factors to, or foils to that. Okay. What do I need to do to get my guy in standard form? Subtract x and subtract 16. So I get 0 equals x squared minus 9x. That's it. Okay. So I'm in standard form. How do I know I'm in standard form? I have a 0 on one side and my lead coefficient's positive. Okay. How do I factor this? This is served up to you on a silver platter. Always check for a GCF, okay? I think some people can struggle with these just because they are deceptively easy, right? They can try to like set up the wrong shell. No, you don't do that. All you do is you just don't forget to check for a GCF before you factor. So we're going to pull a GCF out. Any questions how I did that? Check for a GCF. So then what are my two solutions? A lot of people have been forgetting to do this. You got to set not just the x minus 9 equal to 0, but also that x equal to 0. Okay? A lot of people forgetting to do this. So those are my two answers. What? That'd be if I could if it were an x squared minus 9. Very good question. Watch out for difference of squares. Look at ya.
What if we do it for square root of both sides?
Both sides. What?
Don't you just square it?
Just square both sides. Yeah. If you have radicals by themselves on both sides and they're the same radical, just skip to the second step. Yeah.
So you just delete the square root side.
Yeah. This is the original problem says the square root of a number equals the square root of another number. So those two numbers have to be the same. So 4x minus 3 has to equal x plus 6. That's another way of thinking about it. Okay, and then solve that. Okay. All right, quick review. How can we always check our answers? Always, always, always.
Plug it in.
Plug it back in.
What if there's two square roots on that?
Ooh, 10 and 11. Scary, scary. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
You square just the x or also 3?
What do you guys think? Just the x? All right, so here's how we do that one. Just wanted to check, make sure I had the correct understanding. All right, so what we're going to do is you want to get, so when there's two square roots, you want to start, you're basically going to do this whole process, the whole like little three-step process. We're going to end up doing it twice, okay? So what we do is first just pick a radical and get it by itself. I recommend the bigger radical. So we already have the right side by itself, right? So what am I going to do then at this point? I'm going to square both sides, right? So I'm going to cancel out that radical symbol on the right first, okay? So that's going to be x plus 21 on the right. What am I going to have on the left?
You just have a path.
How do I FOIL that back out? How do I FOIL that out? So you can always just write it out, root x plus 3 times root x plus 3. Let's FOIL that, okay? What does the product of the first two terms give me? X. Outer is what? Root x times 3 plus 3. Just plus 3 root x. Inner is going to be plus 3 root x. And last is going to be plus 9, okay? Okay. Those two terms in the middle, can I combine those? Yes, why? They're like terms, right? They have the, other than their coefficients are the same too. But as long as everything but the coefficient is the exact same, they're like terms, I can combine their coefficients, okay? So that becomes x plus what? 6 root x plus 9 equals x plus 21, okay? Good, okay, so that's the first step. We pick a radical to get by itself, follow the steps, right? Then we just follow the steps. So after that, right, we still have what here? We still have a radical. We only have one radical, right? So just do the same thing. Now, get the remaining radical by itself.
You wouldn't solve that up until you just are left with the radical.
We're going to get it by itself, okay? So I got to do what? I got to subtract this x over. And I've got to subtract this 9 over, right? So I get 6 root x equals, that's just 12, right? Okay. And then what do I do now? Square root it. We got to get the radical by itself. My radical's not by itself.
Yeah.
There you go. Last step. Bring it home. There you go. Boom. I can check my answer by doing what with that 4? Plug it in. Mic drop.
Now what do you do if they're both on the same side? They're two on the same side.
Okay. Sorry, I have Duel of the Fates from Star Wars playing in my head right now. Okay, can I move on to 11? Can I do that? Is that a thing I can do?
Is that a thing you can do in algebra?
Can I move on to the next problem? All right, yes. What do I do if there's 2 on the same side? What? Yeah, so I still want to do the exact same thing. So just like on 10, right, there were 2 radicals. I wanted to pick one to get by itself. Right, the only difference was that the radical was already by itself. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here, okay? So just pick one of the radicals to get by itself, okay? I recommend getting the one on the left by itself. Okay? I like to add stuff to both sides instead of subtracting. It's just my personal thing. So I'm going to add what to both sides? Treat this square root as like a number. So what do I add to both sides? I'm just going to do plus root x minus 1 on both sides. Okay? You can add radicals around your equation as long as you add the whole radical. Okay? You can't just like add a 1, right? But as long as you add the whole thing, you can do that. Okay? So that's going to... Okay, now what do I do to both sides? Square both sides. So square the entire right side. Make sure you're putting parentheses around, okay? So let's FOIL that out together. Okay, the first gives me what? First terms. Yeah, what does my outer give me? 2 times root x minus 1 is just what? Thank you. Inner gives me what? What's 2 times root x minus 1? The exact same thing. The last, what's the last going to give me? Root x minus 1 times root x minus 1.
X minus 1.
Yeah, so just plus x minus 1. Okay? Let's put parentheses around that for now, just so we remember. Okay? Because if you ever get like if this were like a minus, actually I don't know if I'll ever. Don't worry about the parentheses. Sorry, you're right. I won't have. If it were a minus, that's not going to happen. Yeah.
So you then combine like terms.
Combine like terms. You. So let's combine our like terms. X plus 1 equals. What can I combine with the 4 there? These are like terms right here. I can combine those? No, yeah. The other 2 is a good like term as well? No. Just the negative 1. You gotta go looking for it. So 4 minus 1 is 3. What about these? Are these 2 guys like terms? Y, right? So everything past the coefficient. Do we know what I mean by coefficient? The number in front. Everything past it is the exact same, so they're like terms, okay? So it's going to add to 4 root x minus 1, and then plus x, okay? And then I do what? I do the whole process over again. Was up here in this line, and it came from multiplying root x minus 1 times root x minus 1. Do what? Now I'm just going to repeat that whole process, right? Now I have an equation with 1 radical. I just got to get that 1 radical by itself, okay? What do I do to both sides? I can subtract that x over and subtract that 3 over, right? X minus x goes away as well. I get negative 2 equals 4 root x minus 1. What do I do to both sides? Divide by 4, get rid of that 4, so divide by 4. Okay. Now I can do what to both sides? Square both sides. Got to put parentheses around that negative. Okay. You need to have a positive 1/4. And then I do what? Get x by itself. Plus 1. So 1/4 plus 1 equals x. That's 5/4. And I can always plug that back in and check my answer, okay? You okay about that? Alright, let me get the homework pulled up. The homework. You're going to want to take pictures of so make sure you also get the 7-5 homework pages if you didn't get them. Take pictures of 460 and 461. It's on Ava's desk.